What about that gal who limped? She doesn't limp anymore. Mesmer must have something. What cured that woman or that man if the rods didn't do it? It was very important that they discover what Mesmer had, because if it wasn't the rods, something did it. And so these doctors, sincere men, just like all of us, in the secrecy of their attics or cellars, for that's where they had to work. They couldn't practice mesmerism publicly. For 75 years, they sought the secret of Mesmer, but they didn't know where to look, and consequently not knowing where to look, they looked in all the wrong places but the right when they never looked in the human mind for the secret of Mesmer. But here's what happened in 1841. A man named Braid, an English physician of good repute, had two patients come in to see him. One was an eye patient, and the other was a man with whom he had an appointment, and history doesn't say what his trouble was. But it does say that when he was working with this first man with the eye trouble, the man with the appointment came in, and Braid said to his first patient, look, he had an appointment with me, and I've got to work with him first. I'll go into this other office with him, and I'll be back and tend to you in just a minute, but when I do get back, I want to test the reflex action of the pupils of your eyes. I'm going to have you look at this lamp so that we can do that. And then he left with the second patient to go into the other room. Now, the patient in the first room didn't forget about Braid, but Braid forgot about him. The doctor had said that he was going to have him look at a lamp so that he could test the reflex action of the pupils of his eyes. And after the patient waited a while and Braid didn't come back, he thought, well, he'd save a few minutes for the doctor by looking at the lamp now. So he started to look at the lamp. And he looked, and about 40 minutes later, Braid suddenly says to himself, oh, my patient in the first office, I forgot all about him. And he goes back to the first office, and now the man is looking at the light like this. And Braid says to himself, why, that looks like that man is entering the first stage of mesmerism. How did he know it was the first stage of mesmerism? How was he able to identify it? He was able to identify it, I believe, because of the fact that he was one of those men who was working in his attic or cellar with mesmerism and knew all about mesmerism. For as he saw this man looking at the light and his eyes going like that, he said to him, you know, if you closed your eyes, you wouldn't be able to open them. And the man closed his eyes and couldn't open them. He said, now you'll be able to open them. The man opened them. He said, but close them again, you won't be able to open them. And he closed them, and he couldn't open them. And lo and behold, in 4 seconds or less, Braid had discovered what men had been searching for 75 years, the secret of Mesmer. That it wasn't the rods of Mesmer that did the trick. It was the thoughts and ideas of Mesmer spoken at a time when the mind was in a particularly receptive state to receive them. And that receptive state of mind could be created by having a person look at a light for a relatively long time. Relatively short time, call it what you will. But experimentation proved that from 3 minutes to 2 hours would generally bring on that state to almost anyone who looked at lights. Now, this was important information. He'd made a great discovery. He couldn't publish it, I found a new way to cause mesmerism, because no respectable journal would take a paper on mesmerism. He had to have a new word. He had to make his a brand new discovery. So he sought for a word. After all, from the outside looking in, it looked like hypnosis. After all, they had their eyes closed like that. It looked like sleep. So why not take the Greek word meaning sleep and form his word from that? So he formed the word hypno and added the ism from mesmerism. Why, I guess he put the T in there just for euphemism. I can't understand why he did put it in. I've never been able to know. Never been told, anyhow. And he came out with the word hypnotism. And that's for the entire subject, and hypnosis for the state. And thus it has come down to us. Well, now, when that paper was published in 165 different languages and dialects, men all over the world began having their patients look at lights with varying results. But undoubtedly, the results were sufficiently good so that the subject of hypnotism became known all over the world, and it became a legend that the only way you could create the state was by having a person look at a light. But as the doctor worked with hypnosis in his office, there developed a man called the stage operator. The stage operator used hypnosis on an entirely different basis than the doctor in his office used it. And the stage operator, because of the fact that he hypnotized millions of people, quickly learned that lights were not necessary for creating hypnosis. But the doctors wouldn't listen to the stage operator. They wouldn't even ask him. For example, when I read books written about the time that I was born, I find invariably in almost every book the statement, stage operators appear to gain the state in about 3 minutes in the midst of noisy surroundings. But since we know this is impossible, we know that the stage operators are fake and we pay no attention to them. You read a thing like that in a book written by a so-called sensible man. They didn't even ask the stage operator if he was faking or not. He wasn't faking. Now, I started studying hypnosis as a boy, when a stage operator called me up on stage and had me shake hands with 30 people across the stage, and I shook hands with each person, and each person went into a deep trance. And he had made the statement that if I shook hands with them, that's what would happen, and that's what happened. And so I thought I had a great power, and I tried it. And it didn't work at home, but it did work at school on several occasions, and as I practiced more and more and more, I got to the point where I could shake hands with a person and create hypnosis. Now, I couldn't understand why it didn't work all the time. It would work maybe half the time. But if you're a little fellow, around 8 and a half, and you get, we'll say, 5 people over here respond and 5 people over here don't, you wonder what you did wrong over here that you did right over here, and yet you did the same thing both places. And the little fellow wants to know why he can't get 10 out of 10 instead of 5 out of 10. First, before I show you anything, I must show you the technique I used as a little kid. This is what caused the hypnosis. I would just walk up to the patient and I would say, or person, and say this, I'm going to shake your hand 3 times. First time your eyes will get tired, let them. The second time they want to close, let them. The third time they will lock and you won't be able to open them. Want that to happen and watch it happen. Now, 1, 2, now close your eyes. Now 3 and they're locked. And you'll find they just won't work no matter how hard you try. And the harder you try, the less they'll work. Test them, you find they won't work at all. That's right. Now there's perfect eye closed. All right, now you may open them. I used to think that that was hypnosis. No, gentlemen. That is merely the opening wedge into hypnosis, and I'll explain it in a little bit. But when I could get eye closure on, we'll say, 5 people out of 10, and wondered why I couldn't get it on the other 5, that's when I began the scientific study of hypnosis. And I say it was scientific, for I went to the library. Remember, my father had been a local celebrity in the field of hypnosis, but when I went to the library and began to study up on it, every book said that you had to have a person look at a light. Well, I hadn't had a person look at a light. Did I have him look at a light? And this was happening all over the country. Wherever I worked, I could get about 5 people out of 10 just with a handshake, so I didn't need a light at all. But every book said you needed a light, and I wondered why you needed a light. Now, my father had already introduced me to the doctors in town that were using hypnosis, so when I went up to them and I said, "Doctor, why do you have to have a person look at a light in order to hypnotize them?" Or they'd say, well, it's never been explained. Nobody's ever explained that. But then nobody's ever explained electricity. There's just no explanation for it, but you have to do it. And I said, "No, doctor, you don't have to do it. I can just walk up to a person and shake their hands and get hypnosis." "Oh, get out here. You're just a silly kid." I knew I wasn't silly. I was getting the hypnosis. And what did the light do? And nobody was able to tell me. Now, a thought occurred to me that the reason I couldn't get all 10 and could only get 5 out of 10 might be that it had something to do with the light. What did the light do? Well, the only way to find out was to look at a light. And so I would go home and I would look at lights, just like that. And I would look at them for 2 hours and 3 hours and more. All that ever happened was that eventually my eyes would begin to get awfully tired, and I would sort of want to close them. But that's all that happened. It didn't do a thing to me. And I said to myself, well, if it doesn't do anything to me, it doesn't do anything to anybody else. Maybe all it does to anybody is to just make their eyes tired, and maybe people are easier to hypnotize with it when their eyes are tired. So I thought to myself, you know, there must be a faster way of making the eyes tired than just by looking at a light. If that's all it does is make the eyes tired, then you must be able to tire out the eyes much faster than looking at a light. I'd always had trouble with my eyes since I was knee-high to a duck, and at my next visit to the eye doctor, I said to him, Dr. Rindlaub, could you tell me, is there any way to tire out a person's eyes awfully fast? And he could have taken that as a question of a precocious child, and undoubtedly I was in certain respects. But apparently he took the question seriously, for he said, well, if you want to know how to do that, you'd have to know how the human eye works. I said, well, how does it work? And then he explained to me like this. He says, the human eye sees by leaps and darts. He says, you look over there and you look over there, the eye jumps. He says, you look up, you look down, the eye focuses there and it focuses there. It skips everything in between. That's the way it works. Now, if you can get it to do its work without leaping, without jumping, without darting, you can tire out the human eye instantly. I said, well, how could you do that? He said, well, I'll show you what I mean. And he put his hand to the side of my face like this. And he says, I want you to look straight ahead, but out of the corner of your eyes, look at my hand. Now keep watching it. And he brought his hand way back. Keep watching it, keep watching it. And he brought it back. Oh, the tug that I felt on my eyes was terrific. Then he did it the other way. Then he did it up and down. I want you people to do that. Put your hand here on the side, look straight ahead, but out of the corner of your eye, look at your hand. Now bring the hand back of your eye and watch what happens to it. Feel the tug on it as it comes back. You feel how tired your eyes get? Do it the other way now. Then do it up and down in front of your face. You feel that tug? Is there anyone who can't feel that tug? Well, when he showed me that, he showed me something magical so far as I was concerned, because if my eyes got 10 times more tired in just a few seconds than they got by looking at a light for 3 hours, well, then I could tire out anybody's eyes by doing the very same thing. Now I was able to walk up to anybody and doing the very same thing that the doctor had done to me, but adding a few different words. I was able to get immediately a result that, well, even today, it's astounding when you think of it, that immediately the average went up to about 9 out of 10 instead of 5 out of 10. And I want to show you how I did it. Every person, in order to be hypnotized, must have this particular phase of hypnosis, and I'll show you what it is. It's the opening wedge into hypnosis, but it is not the hypnosis. Now, I'm going to go around the room and show you the eye closure that you will all get unless you say to yourself, I don't want it, or unless there's fear present. Fear will keep you from getting it. Nothing else will keep you from getting it. That is resistance. So don't resist, and you'll get it very easily. All right, watch the head come down. Now close your eyes. Now relax those eye muscles to the point where they just won't work, and when you're sure they won't work, test them. Test them hard. Now watch the head come down. Now when you're sure those eye muscles won't work, test them and make sure they won't work. And you'll see you've got 2 people with eye closure in about 2 or 3 seconds. Change your mind, and they open very readily. Change your mind, and they open very readily. And watch the very same thing. Watch the hand come down and close your eyes. Now relax those eye muscles to the point where they just won't work, and when you're sure they won't work, test them and make sure they won't work. That's right. Then watch this hand come down, close your eyes. Relax the eye muscles to the point where they won't work. Change your mind, you can feel it. Now, when you're sure they won't work, test them and make sure they won't work. Test them hard. That's right. Now change your mind, you see how readily they work. See? Feel it all the way through. When you try with your doctor, watch the hand come down, close your eyes. Now relax those eye muscles to the point where they just won't work, and when you're sure they won't work, test them and make sure they won't work. That's right. That's right. See? Now change your mind, the eyes work readily. There. Watch the hand come down. Now close your eyes. Now relax those eye muscles to the point where they just won't work. When you're sure they won't work, test them, make sure they won't work. Test them hard. That's right. Now change your mind and see how readily they work. That's the hypnotic state of mind. Immediately, I changed the percentage from 5 to about 9 to 10. This was phenomenal, and as I began to work more and more with hypnosis, it wasn't long before I was traveling around the country as the world's youngest and fastest hypnotist, and professional operators of many years standing used to watch me and say, that kid does things that just can't be done. But I was working from knowledge, and since I didn't explain to them how I got it, they didn't know how I did it. They just called me the boy wonder and let it go at that. But now, you have seen how the first stage of hypnosis, the entering wedge to hypnosis, is obtained. What you just saw is not hypnosis. Now let me tell you how I mean that. Everywhere else, those of you who have taken other courses know that they say once you obtain the eye closure, you've got it. From there on in, it's easy. Well, that's in large measure true, but that is not hypnosis. Now look what happened to each one of us who got eye closure just now. We closed our eyes and we said, I can't open my eyes. All the while there was something back here in the back of our mind saying, why, Dave Elman, you can too open your eyes. Go ahead and open them. No, I can't open them. See, I'm trying just as hard as ever. I can't open them. I'm using the same muscles and they won't work, see? And that thing back in my mind and in your mind was saying, oh, you could open those eyes any time you wanted to. Now go ahead and open them. And the minute you allowed that thing in the back of your mind to take over, the eyes opened. Every one of you felt that feeling, didn't you? Now, what was that part of your mind which kept saying, you can open those eyes any time you want to? That was your sense of judgment. My sense of judgment says, I can open my eyes, I can close my eyes. I can open my eyes, I can close my eyes. Now I close my eyes, and my sense of judgment says, you can open your eyes. And I say, no, look, I'm trying and I can't, see? There's nothing wrong with my sense of judgment. I'm merely bypassing that sense of judgment, or what I call the critical factor of my mind. Now, the minute that I let the critical factor come back in and take over, the eyes open like that. Isn't that so? Didn't every one of you have that same feeling? Now, this critical factor is very important, for once you bypass that critical factor, you leave the mind open to selective thinking. And the selective thinking which you establish is the hypnosis. Therefore, hypnosis really comes in two parts. First, the bypass of the critical factor. Secondly, the establishment of selective thinking. And you do not have selective thinking just because you have your eyes closed like this and say, I can't open them. You aren't hypnotized. You merely have the critical factor bypassed. But there's no hypnosis as yet. The hypnosis occurs when the suggestions are given. Then you have the complete hypnosis. Let me show you how fast you can get this state on your patients if you know how to go about it. Now, in the first place, there's such a thing as a wrong and a right approach to hypnosis. If you use the wrong approach, you won't get it because you just create resistance, and resistance just won't help you at all. When you try to hypnotize somebody, it's the biggest enemy you've got. How do you approach them the right way? And what is the wrong way to approach them? Well, for example, if I went up to anybody in this room at the present time even and said to you, I'm going to hypnotize you, I would have about 30 or 40% of success, and I'd have about 70% failure. That's how much resistance it would generate. On the other hand, if I made the right kind of an approach, as you saw, there wasn't one person who failed to get eye closure, and there wouldn't be one person who failed to get the hypnosis, provided I approach right, and I want to teach you the right approach. Now, what is the right approach to the patient? Just this: you don't use the word hypnosis. You give the patient the benefit of the state without ever using the word. Why should you use the word and generate the fear which the use of the word generates? Just don't use the word hypnosis, and you can have the benefits of hypnosis without ever saying what it is. Now, you might say to yourself, well, now, wait a minute. Maybe that isn't cricket. Well, do you tell them what's in every prescription that you write? Why are your prescriptions originally written in Latin? So that the patient would not know what you were giving to them. That's the whole premise of all medicine, was the original prescriptions in Latin. Don't let the patient know what he's getting, because if the patient knew that what he was getting, chances are his own thoughts would keep him from getting any benefit from the medicine. And the early practitioners knew that, so they taught you Latin so that prescriptions could be written in Latin. And even today, when you give a prescription, it's probably prepared already, very carefully prepared by the drug houses and so on, and contains many very useful ingredients, and you know how useful they are. But do you name the ingredients that you have in that prescription that you give to the patient? Seldom, if ever, would you do that. I think on the same basis, you don't have to tell them you're giving them hypnosis. But you can give them the benefits of hypnosis just as you give them the benefits of any medicine. Now, let me show you the right approach to the patient. Here was a man who said, keep my eyes closed for a minute. And because there was skepticism expressed by that, I would like to work with him first. Would you come up, please? You see, the funny thing is that if he follows orders, the same thing has to happen to him that happens to anybody else in the world. And he does follow orders beautifully. I mean, there's no skepticism so far as orders are concerned. Now, watch the hand, please. Now let the hand come down. Now close your eyes. Now relax those eye muscles to the point where they just won't work, and when you're sure they won't work, test them and make sure they won't work. No, man, don't make sure they will work. Make sure they won't work. Make sure they won't work. Bypass that critical factor. Make sure they won't work. Then test them and make sure they won't work. That's right. Now, stay like that. Now let that feeling of relaxation that you have in those eye muscles go right down to... No, stay that way.
I haven't got that.
What?
I haven't got that feeling yet.
Well, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Now relax those eye muscles to the point where they won't work. And don't keep testing them all the time. Once you've tested them, let it go. Just stay like that now. Now let that feeling of relaxation go right down to your toes. Now I'm going to lift your hand and drop it. And if you really followed orders and relaxed, that hand will be just like a limp, wet dish rag. Let it be. Now look at that. Look what beautiful relaxation we have at this point. Now, this is the thing that I want to show you. At this point, we do not have hypnosis. This is a pre-hypnoidal state, and any man who has been my student knows this. I want to show you what you can do with a pre-hypnoidal state. Is there a dentist in this group up here in front someplace? Up here? Come on up, will you please, doctor? Now, where's the instruments? Oh, here they are. Doctor, go in there and see where that threshold is. I have given no suggestions of any kind, have I? Now watch what happens as a result of this, though. Just open your mouth, doctor. The minute the fear is gone, look.
Still hurts.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Did you give him a lot of pain?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, just close your eyes. Relax. Now, doctor, I gave you no suggestions at all. But there was a great change in your threshold already. You may not realize it, but there was. So I'm going to have you open your eyes now, and I'm going to let you feel that at normal level. Let him feel what you just did at normal level. Go very easy on him. See what I mean? Now, do you notice how much faster? Now watch the difference when we add hypnosis. Now here is the very same man, skeptical, scared, and everything, and you see that fear is there. But I want to show you what hypnosis does. Now, watch the hand come down. Now, close your eyes. Now, relax those eye muscles to the point where they just won't work. I'll test the hand to see that the relaxation is there. And now, doctor, the dentist is going to make the very same test, and nothing he does will bother or disturb you. You won't feel it. You'll know that he's working there, but that's all. And you just won't feel anything. You'll just know that he's working there. Now, open your mouth and watch the difference now, ladies and gentlemen. See that? You see that? The very same patient who was filled with fear a little while ago, and he doesn't even feel what he's doing now. He knows that the man is working there.
Try it again, all without. Well, let me tell you something. I was exactly the same way when I came here 3 weeks ago. Just like you.
You see what I mean, Doctor?
Yeah.
You see why I choose... Now, gentlemen, did you learn something from that? I just want you to see that the pre-hypnoidal state... Thank you, Doctor. That the pre-hypnoidal state is one that you can work with. Now, remember, here was fear. You saw the fear, and you saw that when we didn't have the hypnosis added, when we just had the pre-hypnoidal state, his threshold was changed considerably just by that. But the minute we added the selective thinking, he didn't feel anything. Did you feel anything at all when he made that test? That's right. All you could feel was touch. Now, gentlemen, you have seen now the pre-hypnoidal state, and you have seen that it is useful to you. I don't give a darn whether you get true hypnosis the first week or not. You get relaxation, and you're going to be able to do things with relaxation that you never dreamed were possible. Now, let's take the next nearest approach to a skeptic. Because remember, I took the man who was most skeptical in choosing him. Let's take the man who was next most skeptical. Would you come up, please? I want you to see that I am not taking those things which are easy. These are the cases which you would say to yourself, oh boy, better not use hypnosis on him because you can't get any results there. That's nonsense. You take just the ones that look tough, and you'll get results beautifully. Now watch the hand come down. Now close your eyes. Relax those eye muscles to the point where they just won't work. And when you're absolutely sure they won't work, doctor, test them and make sure they won't work. Now, stay that way. Now, I'm going to ask you to let that feeling of relaxation go right down to your toes. Then I'm going to lift your hand and drop it. And I want that hand to be just like a wet dish rag, just so completely relaxed. Now, look there. Is there any doctor in this room who doesn't realize that this man has done terrific things with his threshold already? At the present time, there's been an alteration there. I don't know how much of an alteration, but he himself, as a doctor, knows that when he's relaxed like that, he doesn't feel things at normal level. Is that correct, doctor? You can tell that, can't you? Sure. Mm-hmm. Now, how much has the threshold altered? I don't know, but let's find out. Let him find out. Let him see for himself what he has done to his threshold. Come on, you make this test, will you, please? Go in there and see if he has a threshold.
Plates.
Oh, he's got plates. All right. All right, then we won't make that kind of a test. We'll make another test. Doctor, would you come over and give him that Achilles heel test? There is the Achilles heel test, which is a test used in podiatry that is considered a very, very severe test. And, well, you can generally make them hit the ceiling with it. How much did you feel like hitting the ceiling, Doctor? Didn't bother at all, did it? Now, there was a modicum. I made an error, and I added a bit of selective thinking, which I didn't mean to add. But there was a modicum of selective thinking there. I think I added the word "see if he has one," and I didn't mean to add that. Find out where his threshold is, see if he has one, and that would have been selective thinking. And I want to explain that to you. I don't want you to think that wasn't. That was selective thinking. But I wouldn't have had to do that for him to have had practically as good a result. I think every one of you realized that. Is that correct, gentlemen? I didn't have enough selective thinking in there to cause what I would call a real hypnosis.